Well, hey, Algebra, welcome to the midweek feedback video here for April 27th to May 1st, where we're going to be looking at completing the square, which was Monday's assignment, as well as the quadratic formula, which was Wednesday's assignment. And then so far, those that have done really all week so far, those that have actually completed the assignments, you guys have done very well. I know it's helpful on Math Excel being able to look at the question help, I'm sure, just on certain ones maybe that you at first don't get right. But yeah, so far, really good for both assignments. And then Friday, those that have done it, also stellar. So I'm just going to really focus on Monday and Wednesday here for now. And so looking at complete the square for Monday and quadratic formula for Wednesday. Really quick though, before we get into just a couple examples of each of these, just a heads up, the quizzes, I am grading those slowly but surely. You'll see those coming into Skyward. You'll see your score there. But I also will, when I'm finished with that, just release comments and just kind of the Math Excel results, and maybe a quick video or something, maybe how to go back in and find where those are at, if you want to see specific questions, how you did on those quizzes. So just a heads up that I'll be working on that this week and into next week, and hopefully have those ready for you guys soon. So let's start here. This is number 6 on the Math Excel for complete the square for Monday. Remember, for complete the square, we need to make sure that this is just a single p squared. We can't have that 2 there. So I'm going to start by just go ahead and dividing both sides, or everything technically here, by 2. So we'll get p squared here. That's a plus, I think, plus 4p minus 1 is equal 0. And then to do complete the square, though, I have to go ahead and move this number over because I want that blank. Remember, I want to be able to kind of do the whole square thing, where we would have the p squared. We would have 2p and 2p would give us the total of the 4p that we have right there. And then lastly, we want to pick what this number is, because that would mean that this is p plus 2, and that means this needs to be a 4 right there, right? So I need this right here to be a 4, and right now it's not. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do p squared here plus 4p. We moved over the 1, so now we can go ahead and say, let's add 4 to both sides. Okay, so I add 4 to both sides. Once I do that, the idea of this is I can factor it here into p plus 2 times p plus 2, or p plus 2 squared, okay, which is what this left side is going to look like. So p plus 2 squared is equal to 1 plus 4 would give us 5. Now, once I've done this, I now can go ahead and take the square root here of both sides. When I do that, this cancels. The 2 and the square root over here just cancel. They're gone. We'll just get p plus 2. But then remember, when I take square root of 5 there, it has to be the positive and negative square root of 5, or else you won't get both answers that you're supposed to get. Otherwise, at this point, we're just trying to solve for p, and right now that 2 is the only thing standing in our way. So let's move that over. That will allow us to say here that p is equal to what? Negative 2 plus or minus square root of 5. I believe it'll let you enter it either with the plus or minus, or as 2 different solutions written out or typed out. Negative 2 plus square root of 5 and comma negative 2 minus square root of 5. So that would be number 6 there. Here's number 7. We'll just do one more, complete the square, and then I've got a quadratic formula, one that we'll finish with here on the last slide from Wednesday's assignment. But starting back here, right now I've got the single x squared there. I'm good to go. So let's go ahead and figure out what would be the number. We know it's probably not going to be 5, so let's go ahead and clear that out of the way so that we can kind of figure out here, well, what number here are we going to want to add to both sides in order to complete the square? So if you remember the idea here, I'm going to write it out just so you can see it visually again, but we got x squared. Here's where this one gets a little tricky. This is technically a 1x right there, so that makes this, what, a half x and a half x? So if we do that, that means this is x plus 1/2 and x plus 1/2. 1/2 times 1/2, that means this needs to be a 1/4 right there, right? Is that value that we want. So we're going to do 1/4. Remember, the rule to get that number is basically to take whatever this is, divide it by 2, and then take that number and square it. So that's how we got 1/4. We took 1, we cut it in half, made it, or divided by 2, and we got 1/2. And then 1/2 squared would be 1/4. And then it factors back into whatever this sign is. Make sure you put that sign right there. Okay, and then half of 1 was 1/2 before we squared it, so that's the number that goes right there. All right, over here equals, I'm going to go ahead and put those together. If you think of 5 here, if you rewrite 5 as being over 4, it would be what, 20 over 4? So put those together, we get 21/4. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take a square root here of both sides. Okay, we'll get x plus 1/2 here is equal to positive negative square root of 21. But then on the bottom, if you think about what is square root of 4, it's just 2. So that'll be kind of nice. We can write that as over 2 without any radical. Now solving for x, so let's go ahead and move the 1/2 over. So we'll end up getting x here is equal to, and I can go ahead and put these as a single fraction. I can say this is -1 plus or minus square root of 21 all over 2. And the reason is, of course, both of these have a denominator of 2. So we can go ahead and put that as a single denominator there in our answer. So we go ahead and finish here with this being our answer. All right, so that was complete the square. Let's finish with just an example here of quadratic formula. So quadratic formula, identifying a, b, and c is really important. And you need to make sure you set it equal to 0 before you can do that. You could really move them to either side. I always like to make x squared, the squared term, positive. So I'm actually going to go ahead and move everything to the right side. Although if you want to move it to the left, move the 2x to the left side so they're all on the left side, you could do that as well. But if I move everything here to the right side, I get x squared, putting it in descending order here, x squared plus 2x minus the constant here, 4. All right, at that point, I can say, all right, what is a, b, and c? A here would be a positive 1 that's sitting out there. B here would be the positive 2. And c would be the -4. Okay, so then we'll take those. Let's plug that over here into the quadratic formula. Okay, so we'll have what, -2, since b is positive 2, negative b is -2. Okay, equal to 2 squared here would be 4, minus 4 times a is 1, c is -4, and that's all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay, we'll have -2 plus or minus 2 on the bottom. In the radical here, we'll have 4 minus, and then I basically try to figure this part out kind of together first. If you think about PEMDAS, order of operations here, you kind of want to figure out what is happening here kind of with those 3 terms before that you're multiplying before you try subtracting whatever that is. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times the -4 is -16. So we're doing 4 minus -16, which if you think about, it's actually plussing a positive. We're doing 4 plus 16. Let's move it all over here. We'll have -2 plus or minus 4 plus 16 would be square root of 20. And if you think about breaking down square root of 20, that would be what, square root of 4 times square root of 5 with square root of 4, but just being 2. So it would be 2 rad 5 is the same as square root of 20. Now notice here, last step, there's a lot of kind of simplifying on this one. Notice the little heart here. We can simplify both of those in the same way. Okay, so we could say -2 over 2 is just 1. 2 over 2 is just 1. They're basically, they just both kind of, this what would turn to a -1. You can only do this as long as you can do the same thing with both of them, right? Because they each have a fraction of 2. And now they each have a fraction of 1 because we cancel both of them. So we get -1 plus or minus 1, which we don't need to write, times square root of 5. That would be our final answer. All right, as always, don't be afraid to reach out over email if you need help, or hop on Zoom during our Zoom help sessions on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Or you can always email me and try and set up another session if needed. Otherwise, hope you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week. Make it a good one.